Amendment and I came in the same class together in Congress. It was a very small class, 17 House Republicans in 1998. And it's really nice to see you where you are here, Jim, steering the flagship of conservatism here at the Heritage Foundation. First of all, these are the ideas, policy summits. These are the kinds of conversations that we need to be having. These are the kinds of conversations that we were having when I was a young guy working for Jack Kemp at Empower America. Bill Clinton just got elected, big majorities, moving a stimulus bill, Hillary Care. Does that sound familiar? That's how the House Republicans put together the contract with America in that moment. I'm a Jack Kemp, Ronald Reagan conservative. Thank you. What I learned from them is that they both understood that we need to be talking about what our vision is and how we can make it a reality. We need to raise our gaze. That's how you move America forward. And that's what I want to talk to you about today. Let's just cut right to the chase. There are a lot of people hurting in America right now. They don't think that the promise of this country is real for them. The American idea, the condition of your birth doesn't determine the outcome of your life. A lot of people don't think that that is true for them anymore. And if the American idea is not true for everybody, then it's probably really not true at all, is it? We just can't accept that. It goes against everything this country stands for. We are the conservative party. We want to conserve this country's promise. And so, we care about opportunity. We want every person in this country to find their American dream. That is our mission. So the question that we face in 2016 is really simple. Do we want more of the same, and do we want liberal progressives to lock in all their gains? One more progressive presidency and you know exactly what they will get. Or are we, the other party, the conservative party, going to get the country back on track? How do we do that? Well, to quote Braveheart, we need to unite the clans. We have to unite conservatives around a bold, pro-growth agenda that will get America back on track. And then we have to take this agenda to the people. We have to take our founding principles: freedom, liberty, free enterprise, self-determination, self-government, government by consent. And we have to apply these principles to the problems of the day and come up with real solutions that will build a confident America. If we don't think the country's on the right track, and we don't, then we have a moral obligation, a duty, to give the people of this nation a choice and a chance for a better way forward. And that's exactly what House Republicans are committed to doing. My theory of the case is this. We win an ideas contest. We lose a personality contest. We cannot fall into the progressives' trap of acting like angry reactionaries. The left would love nothing more. They would love nothing more than for a fragmented conservative movement to stand in a circular firing squad and fire so that the progressives can win by default. That would be easy for them. The president is struggling to remain relevant in an election year where he's not even on the ballot. He's going to do all he can to help elect another progressive by distracting the American people. He's going to try to get us talking about guns or some other hot-button issue and not about his failures at ISIS or the economy or poverty or national security. He's going to try and knock us off our game. We have to understand his distractions for what they are. Otherwise, we're going to have a distraction this week, we're going to have a distraction next week, and then we're going to have a distraction the week after that. And that's going to be the Obama playbook all year long. And so what I want to say to you is this. Don't take the bait. Let's not fight over tactics. Don't impugn people's motives. It's fine if you disagree. And there is a lot that is rotten in Washington. There's no doubt about that. But we can't let how someone votes on an amendment to an appropriations bill define what it means to be a conservative, because it's setting our sights too low. Frankly, I think it's letting the president define us. That's what he wants to do. That's what he wants us to do. That's defining ourselves as only an opposition party instead of a proposition party. So we have to be straight with each other. And more importantly, we have to be straight with the American people. We can't promise that we can repeal Obamacare when a guy with the last name Obama is still our president. All that does is it sets us up for failure and disappointment and recriminations. When voices in the conservative movement demand things that they know that we can't achieve with a Democrat in the White House, all it does is depress our base and in turn help Democrats stay in the White House. We can't do that anymore. It won't work. I don't want to set us up for failure. I want to set us up for success. And that's something that we all can work on together. And the way you do that is you unify around a vision. We need to define the horizon that we're looking for. And then we need to bring the rest of the country with us. That's why I'm heartened by what you're doing here today. That's why I'm heartened by exactly these ideas you're talking about. You've put your plan to get America back on track. Now we're putting together our own. And today we're going to share ideas and flesh out our vision. If we keep this up, I think there will be no question that in 2016 the Republican Party will be the party of ideas. As you know, we are already at work on our agenda. It has 5 parts: national security, jobs and economic growth, health care and entitlement reform, poverty and opportunity, and finally, the last piece of this agenda, and it is so critical to all the others, is restoring the Constitution. The president's executive overreach has undermined the Constitution and has damaged the people's trust. This is the progressive vision. So, what needs to be done to restore the separation of powers, to protect our constitutional liberties? What good is enacting all these great conservative reforms if another charismatic progressive can talk his or her way into the White House and undo it all with a phone and a pen again? These are our 5 points. These are what we believe unify the conservative movement, unify the Republican Party, and get America back on track. We're saying, here is what we will do if you, the men and women of America, give us a Republican president we can work with to do this. And we are ready to work with everyone at Heritage Action as we put together that agenda. We want your ideas and your input. As far as I'm concerned, if you have ideas, we are all ears. You've done a great job and great work on crony capitalism, for example. Because the way I see it, that's exactly how we turn the country around. In the late 1970s, Jack Kemp and House conservatives put out a plan to cut taxes, restore economic growth, and restore America to her greatness. It was bold and it was aspirational. It was so compelling that Ronald Reagan ran on those ideas in 1980. Guess what happened? Reagan ran the tables. The Republican Party and Ronald Reagan in 1980 won a mandate from the people. And the rest, as they say, well, is history. And mandate for leadership was a cornerstone of that moment. That is exactly what we need to do today. The stakes this time, though, they're even higher. So we need to be inspirational. We need to be inclusive. We need to show how our principles and our policies are universal and how they apply to everybody. We know the economy is weak. We know that the world is on fire. We know that our future is uncertain. We really genuinely worry about our children and our grandchildren. We may just sever that legacy of leaving the next generation better off for the first time ever. There's a lot of frustration and anger out there. And is it justified? Yeah, you bet it is. It sure is justified. But we should not follow the Democrats and play identity politics. Let's talk to people in ways that unite us. that are unique to America's founding. That's what I think people are hungry for. And that reality is the essence of the Republican Party. Or more importantly, that reality is the essence of the conservative movement. And that is our mission for the next 6 months. All told, I'm excited. I'm actually really optimistic. Why? Because the left is intellectually exhausted and their ideas have utterly failed. And we are all just getting started. We are unifying. We're going on offense on ideas. We have all the makings for a mandate from the people to save the American idea. Now let's just go get it. Thank you.
Question there. Thanks for being here. Take a question in the back there.
Mr. Speaker, exciting, thank you. In addition to the pen, what is it, the phone and the pen, the ever-present mechanism of our destruction is the bureaucracy. And so I'm a physician, and let me tell you, let me breathe here, sorry. He's destroying the profession. The medical profession is becoming the DMV. The mechanism is the bureaucracy, you know, under the guise of things like quality measures. And to go quickly, to be specific, there's a quality measure about satisfaction in a hospital. And guess how the hospitals achieve their quality measure? Narcotic pain medication. Okay, if they figured out if they narc them, they're happy. Right? It's creating a whole subculture of people addicted on pain medication. That's how the bureaucracy gets into. It's terrible. So we need a congressional committee because we don't have the administration, right? They run the bureaucracy, to shine a light on every agency and the destructive, injurious mechanisms in those bureaucracies. You can change the vision, but if you just fly over this bureaucracy,
Let me give you a couple
disease is
things.
still there, sir.
This is a perfect example of what I'm describing and why our agenda addresses this in two ways. Healthcare, for example. What Obamacare is nothing more than basically a proxy and a plan to get to government-run healthcare. It's just that simple. It's the government taking over 16% of our economy through a command and control takeover of our healthcare system. We're going to end up having a handful of insurers. They're all basically mega mergers. The small ones are going away, and they're basically utilities, public proxies of the federal government. If they could, they just get rid of insurance companies and just have government do it. And that may be, at the end of the day, the outcome if they're able to continue. So that's the diagnosis. What's the solution? The solution, take our principles applied to this problem, go to a patient-centered healthcare system. We met with our healthcare task force yesterday about not just, everybody knows we're for repealing Obamacare. We actually had the veto override vote yesterday in Congress where we ran the entire constitutional process using our budget tools to put a bill on his desk that he vetoed, and we had the override vote, and clearly we don't have the votes to override the veto. But we have now demonstrated as of yesterday that if we just have a Republican president, we can repeal Obamacare. We don't need 60 votes in the Senate. We have shown how we can get around a filibuster to do that. So we have proven that. Okay, what's the second part? That's what our agenda is. What do we replace it with? So we have to show you. We owe you. If we don't like this, Obamacare, what would we replace it with? And that's patient-centered healthcare. But again, and patient-centered healthcare means not bureaucracy healthcare. It means you, the doctor, and your patient, and having all of the rest of the healthcare community competing against each other for our business. That's patient-centered healthcare. But to the point you made, it won't work if we don't lock in those gains by rebalancing the separation of powers between the legislative branch and the executive branch. That is why our fifth spoke of this wheel is so important. And that is why we're working on all of these. REINS Act is one component of it. All big rules and regulations that are effectively our laws. Congress passes vague statutes, unelected fourth branch of government bureaucracies. This is what progressives do. This is all Hegel and everything they believe in. Bureaucracies They micromanage our lives. They determine the outcome of these things. And you, as a citizen, really have no recourse because it's not an elected person making these decisions. So all these final rules and regulations got to come back to Congress for a final vote, an approval, or amendment before they can go into effect. So that your elected representative, the person you voted for that is in the law-writing branch of government, they make the final decision. They are accountable for writing these laws, and they're accountable for the regulations. That, to me, is how you get lasting change. You get rid of the law, you replace it with something that we think is good, that we believe in, that restores people's rights, and then you have lasting reforms by rebalancing the separation of powers and the checks and balances. I think the president sees himself as the bookend to Woodrow Wilson, the bookend to the progressive experiment, which was run about 100 years. And if they continue on this path, that will happen. I see this as an opportunity because America doesn't want this. America doesn't want their lives to be micromanaged by distant bureaucrats. They don't want crony capitalism, big government and big business joining in a common cause to rig the rules, put the gate up, and then in who you know is how you do, not what you know and how hard you work. This philosophy is antithetical to what we believe is right in America. So we have to show an agenda that accomplishes these points, these principles, and then builds in lasting reforms to secure them for posterity. That's the whole point of this. Sorry, I won't give it such a long answer. But.
Yes, sir. Could you tell us what your deadline is for passing all the appropriations bills, and will you replace any chairman who doesn't meet the deadline?
It's a good question. Well, the deadline's the fiscal year, but we want to get them done before July. So typically the deadline is September 30th. We have the party conventions in July, so that throws it off. So our deadline is to do it about 2 months earlier. So that's why we want to pass our budget earlier. We're not going to wait for the president's budget to do our budget. That's typically the way the law, I used to run the budget committee. What you used to do, wait for the president's budget, CBO rescores it, and then 3-4 weeks later you do the House budget by April 15th. We're not going to wait till April to pass our budget. We got to pass it much earlier than that so we can start our appropriations process earlier than that, so we can get our appropriations process done before July. And all 12 bills we're bringing to the floor. That is our point. Now, passing. It may not be the chairman's fault if we do or do not pass a particular appropriations bill. Every member of Congress is responsible for making sure we pass our appropriation bills. And then we're going to have to go, and I want to do 12 separate bills. That's my goal. If we just wait and let a pile up at the end of the year, that's not good government. That's diluting the power of the purse. Believe me, I was involved in this thing they call the omnibus. It is no way to run government. It's the last thing we want to do. So we're starting the process early, doing the budget early, bringing all the bills to the floor, and our goal is to get it done before July. The House, I can speak only for the House. I can't speak for those guys over there on the other side of the Capitol.
I think we have time for one more.
Okay, who do you want to do it?
Maybe start the row.
Chet Byler, and here we go. Chet Byler, and I hope to join you in the battle. Congressman Joe Pitts is retiring, and I'm running for that seat.
Yeah.
One question. I am alarmed, as many people are, by deficits and debt. It seems astonishingly out of control. How serious is this? How much should we be concerned?
Very. I believe we're one presidency away from losing control of the situation. We're one presidency away because a few things will happen. If a progressive gets the White House, then we won't have the kind of entitlement reform we need to get our debt under control and to get our budget balanced. The Federal Reserve is starting to normalize rates. So once interest rates end up popping on us and we don't fix our entitlement programs, which are the drivers of our debt, then we'll have a real crisis on our hand. Not only will we have a fiscal and a monetary policy crisis, we'll have a political crisis. Because right now, we can change these programs. We can reform our entitlement programs without changing benefits for people in or near retirement. So we can fix our budget mess on our own terms as Americans in a smart, reform-based, prospective way so that the promise that government made to people who worked hard and prepared their retirements or are near or at retirement, those promises can still be kept. But if you wait another, I don't know, half a dozen years, I'm just guessing, and the Federal Reserve starts raising rates, not to mention all this QE they've done, and we have 10,000 people retiring each and every day in America because the boomers are retiring for the next 10 years, and then you wait till after a progressive leaves the White House again, it's going to be too late. You will have to cut benefits in real time on people who are in retirement. You will have to pull the rug out from under people because you'll be doing massive surgery to the budget because the bond markets will be coming after us.
That is if we don't do something now.
That's right. And so the whole point of this is, let's be smart, America. Let's do this on our own terms. If we get our budget under control, number one, that will help us with our currency, that will help us with our interest rates, that will help us with economic growth. Number two, we'll be able to keep the promise government made to you that you've already retired on or you're about to retire. And then for those of us who are younger, I just turned 46. I actually feel kind of old these days. For those of us who are younger, there's no way these programs are going to be there for us when we retire. The government's making promises to us that it knows it can't keep. So why don't we reform these programs to fulfill the mission of these programs, health and retirement security, in a way that we will actually be able to get it, in a way that we will actually be able to bank on the promise that's being made to us, which is not going to be kept. So that's really the social contract here. The social contract, if we punt more, will not stick, and it will be very ugly socially, politically, economically. And we will give our next generation a lower standard of living. It's just that clear. So this is why winning is so important. It really is the American experiment. It really is the legacy of leaving the next generation better off, is up for grabs. And that is why we have to win. And not only win, we have to win with a mandate. We have to win, and in 2017, we have to have the courage of our convictions, and we have to do this. I mean, I am fine if I lose my seat in 2018 after doing the right thing to save America. No problem. That's the attitude we have to have, but we got to lay it out there to the country. We got to be as sober and serious with the country about what it's going to take to get this country back on track. We have to ask them for permission to do this. The progressives in 2008 ran on personality, on uniting and not dividing and vague platitudes, and then they got a supermajority and they crammed it all through on an unsuspecting country. We want an honest election. We want an honest mandate. Here's what it takes to save the country, to put the country back on the right track. If you elect us, this is what we'll do, so that we're held accountable to doing it, so that we do it in 2017. That's the kind of an election we are asking for, that we believe is necessary to get this thing back on the right track. I'm excited about it because this is the kind of election I've been wanting to have ever since I've ran for Congress. You know, I was 10 years old when Ronald Reagan pulled this off. We really haven't had that kind of a clarifying election since those days, in my opinion. That's the kind of clarifying election we need. You need to help us. Thank you, everybody.
Speaker, thank you.
Appreciate it.